Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. So, Hare Krishna, I would like to welcome another special guest in our series of interviews, Books Are the Basis. I would like to welcome Her Grace Devaki Mataji. And thank you very much for coming. I'm very happy that you will speak a little bit about this topic because I know how much you're connected with Prabhupada's books and books in general. So you can also, I can introduce you in the sense that you joined in 1985 in Australia, where you are now, right? And in the 90s, you preached in Riga, Latvia, and countries of the Soviet Union. And after that, you entered the renounced order of life because you separated from your husband, and then you start preaching 6 months India, Bangladesh, as I remember, and then 6 months in the West. And you did so many projects about counseling the devotees, about devotee care. You established an institute for spiritual culture, and you're an author of 4 books. So, and you're preaching still, and I find that very much amazing. But I would also like that you tell us something a little bit about yourself so that people can get to know you. You can tell us like how you joined Krishna consciousness, what inspired you. Was it especially the books of Srila Prabhupada that touched you the most? So if you can, we can start with that.
Okay. Yes, so first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to this interview and giving me an opportunity to say a few things. So yes, I can say I was always really searching for a higher purpose in life. This was a very strong urge from within. You know, that even though in Germany I had everything and I had a fantastic job as a physiotherapist, I was making good money, but I just was not satisfied. And I was almost looking unknowingly for ISKCON. I was looking for an organization which is doing something really important in the world. And I was really checking out anything and everything I could get my hands on. And then at some stage in 84, I sold everything. I gave everything up. I got rid of all my medical books, everything. And I started traveling, searching. And then finally in Australia, after a long journey, I came to the Hare Krishna farm outside Sydney. It was in Kola River at that time. This farm we had to sell later on, and we moved the devotees to another farm. So I came to the farm without knowing anything about Krishna consciousness. It was just Bhaktivedanta Ashram, and I thought, oh, well, this sounds spiritual. So in there I met one devotee who is now in Zurich, Radhishan Prabhu. He was at that time in Australia. He was the head pujari there. And he grabbed me and he engaged me in the pujari room and was preaching to me 8 hours a day and engaging me in service. And he had some of Prabhupada's books in German language, because at that time my English was not so fluent that I would want to read philosophical books. So he gave me some books, but the first week I didn't look at them. But every day he was asking me, so have you read already? Have you read already? And I said, no. And then he made some remark that, he thought I look so intelligent and surely I would read or something. So he made some little remark that I thought, okay, I look intelligent, well, maybe I should have a look at these books, And then I remember I started looking at Signs of Self-Realization and parallel Bhagavad Gita. But the first chapter was too many names for me, so I skipped the first chapter and I went to the second chapter, summary of Bhagavad Gita, and there I found some verses which really struck me. the verses in regards to death, the heroes here and so on. Because that was one of my questions, or was what is happening at this moment of death? Because being in a medical profession, I saw people dying and so on. So, and wow, this was really an eye-opener, some of these verses in the second chapter. And only about 10 days after I met the devotees, I remember one evening I had this feeling, this is it. I have to try this. And it was actually a mixture between pain in the heart, because I realized I had to give up so many things, sense gratification, but a mixture of pain, but then also such excitement, And yeah, and then I mentioned this the next day to Radheshyam Prabhu, and he was smiling and saying, yes, Krishna is dancing in front of you, So then I basically moved from the guest room to the Brahmacharini ashram, so it was very fast for me.
Yeah.
And it was just such a relief. I just felt like coming home, So definitely I can say Prabhupada's books, they really, served as an eye-opener, because I could find so many answers to my questions, which I had had for many years. But then I also would say only Prabhupada's books may not have been enough. Prabhupada's books parallel with friendship with the devotees. Yeah. Those two things together, that very much convinced me to really try this process. So only Prabhupada's books may not be enough for everybody, but ultimately it is this friendship, because after a week or so, when I was on this farm, I actually wanted to go to New Zealand because also my visa for Australia was finishing. And then I said to Radheshyam Prabhu, I will go to New Zealand now. And he said, what? No, you can't leave. You told me you're going to stay for 10 days, so you have to stay for 10 days. And then I thought, all right, I can stay for a few more days. So yeah, so he definitely pulled me in, and through our relationship, he made me a devotee, really. So both together, Prabhupada's books and relationships with devotees. That's, I think, what really does the trick to convince people.
Yeah, that's also like the part. I mean, I know that we have Srila Prabhupada's purpose in the books. So in the sense, we do get association with Srila Prabhupada, but it is stated also in his purpose how we should hear from a devotee. And I would connect this with what you just said, like this.
Yes. Also, we do need the life examples, Yeah. So there's the book Bhagavat and there's the person Bhagavat, and both are very instrumental. Yes.
So then you stayed in Australia for 5 years, right?
Yeah, for 4 years, from 85 to 89, and then 89 I married. Oh. And then the first 5 years of our Grihastha life, we were going back and forwards. We were going for the European spring, summer to Europe, and then in October we would come back to Australia because we were attached to the warm climate here and so on. But then after 5 years of going back and forwards, we realized it's just better if we stay in Europe, and we can, give more time and energy to developing the temple there. We go like that. But
you were also a book distributor, right? I mean, through all this time, as I understand.
Yes, well, yes and no. I have to say, when I joined here in Australia, these were different times where we were actually not allowed to accept money in the streets for the books. The devotees were arrested. So the leaders had devised this system that from Monday to Friday, we would go out and collect money by selling all kinds of things, candles, painting, stickers, and then on Saturdays, we would go out and flood the whole place with books for free. We would give them out for free, just the soft copy ones. And many of them ended up in the bins, and we would just afterwards go around, pull them out of the bins, wipe them off, and put them back in the box for the next Saturday. So, and then, but later, I remember Prabhupada Prabhu he's in LA now, Prabhupada Sabra, he was here at the time. And he started really pushing that we go out and distribute the books for money. Then gradually, we were not arrested anymore. So, and then I was also doing a little bit of book distribution, going door to door and so on. But because I was so good in Lakshmi collection, I always was collecting money, selling all different things. And this was also a blessing for my life because I could help a lot of projects. The Riga temple we were establishing was my collection. And I collected for Bangladesh for so many holy places and Nepal. And that's how I ended up going to Bangladesh because for many years I was collecting for the different holy places there.
That's wonderful.
So, but my heart is very much in book distribution. Then later, when I was in Riga, I used to take the girls traveling in my van, and I used to go out with them on book distribution, and I used to cook for them and so on, and go door to door with them. And so my heart is in book distribution, and I'm still in the book distribution conference with Vijay Prabhu, and I read the stories. And then also in Bangladesh, actually, not wanting to glorify myself, but I kind of introduced in Bangladesh Prabhupada's mood of book distribution, the Prabhupada Marathon. They didn't know all these things. So there in Bangladesh, there I distributed lots of books. And still now when I go there, hopefully by the end of this year, the happiest moments are always when I distribute the books there. And there we have big programs, and I show my favorite books, which is Science of Self-Realization, Krishna book, Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada Lilamrita, and Bhagavatam box. And I show them and say a few words about each book. And then I say, and whoever wants to get a book today, I can write some good wishes inside. And then all the people come, and there's a long queue, and I'm just sitting there signing books, yes. And people just love to take them, so these are always my happiest moments, in Bangladesh.
I think that's wonderful. Everyone would like to have a line. For distributing Prabhupada's books like that. So
in Bangladesh, of course, we don't know whether people read them, but just by a Western devotee signing it, they all want this book, But it's a start, at least it's in the house. And I have traveled all around Bangladesh in a van with some devotees, and we have put Bhagavatam sets in people's houses. And they do a puja to the Bhagavatam set, and then we teach them how to read it, to read one verse in the mornings, and so we do these things there, and people have such respect for Shastra and books, and it's a whole different mood than here in the Western world. In Bangladesh, people have genuine respect for Shastra. Yes.
That's true. But also it's like people don't, at the beginning, especially when you come to Krishna consciousness, they see it like, okay, it's a book, but it's more than a book, right? As you said, you worship Srimad Bhagavatam because it's actually a deity of Krishna.
Yes.
So in that sense, Prabhupada's books are so special. I mean, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, yes. And I have definitely experienced that usually we glorify Prabhupada, that he brought this knowledge to the English-speaking world. But not only that, he re-established the proper Siddhanta of the Shastra, the Vedic knowledge for the Hindu community. I mean, without Prabhupada's books, the Hindu community would be completely confused and bewildered. They wouldn't know who to worship and who is who, and so Prabhupada really set everything clear again for the whole Hindu community all around the world, through his books. So, and very often in Bangladesh, I have encountered this attitude. The devotees say, let the people first join ISKCON and then they should read Prabhupada's books. And I'm always telling them, no, the other way around. Let them first read Prabhupada's books and then they will join. And then their joining ISKCON will not be a sentimental thing, but it will be based on knowledge, on Prabhupada's books. Because if that's not there, then people today, they like ISKCON and tomorrow they don't like ISKCON. But if their joining ISKCON is based on Prabhupada's books, then this is a whole different thing, Yeah, so I have that experience preaching in these to Hindu people,
Yeah, I totally would agree with you. And especially if you read the books and then by Krishna's mercy and Prabhupada's mercy, you get the realization that actually nothing can like sweep you away from the path.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
This is even not only for Hindus, but this is for us Western people too. If our joining Krishna consciousness is really based on Prabhupada's books, then no matter what happens to us in ISKCON, this thing may happen and that bad thing may happen, but we will stick with it because we know, all right, ISKCON is in its growing periods. There's some growing pains there and leaders make mistakes. But Prabhupada and Prabhupada's books are perfect. And we will not so easily leave ISKCON and leave Krishna consciousness, if our joining is really based on knowledge, Yes.
That's true. And can you tell us then, like for you, what does it mean these books are the basis? We talk about it all the time and we quote Srila Prabhupada. How do you see it, even from the Shastras and your experience?
Yes. I mean, there's several aspects. First of all, it's Prabhupada's books are the basis because they give us the Sambandha Gyan, this knowledge. Who am I? Who is Krishna? What is this whole world all about? And because, especially living in the Western world, material energy is so strong. We are bombarded with, so much materialistic propaganda and enticements for sense gratification and. So unless we hear regularly again and again and read Prabhupada's books, our consciousness just gets covered over in no time. It happens in a very subtle way, but yeah, it's like the weeds are growing, so that's why we have to hear and read Prabhupada's books very regularly so that we are clear what is what and what is the ultimate goal of life. And we don't forget that the ultimate goal is to get out of this material world and not to pay our bills and, build an extension on our house or whatever it may be, So that's one thing, because of the Sambandha Gyan. This is why Prabhupada's books are the basis. But then also Prabhupada's books connect us with Prabhupada. It sets the whole foundation to ISKCON. And Prabhupada being the founder Acharya, this is just so important to deeply understand Prabhupada's mood and his visions and his principles of action and how he wanted things to be developed and so on. So this we get through Prabhupada's books. I mean, he always said himself, his books are the law books for the next 10,000 years for cultured humanity, you know. So, yeah, I mean, without Prabhupada's books, very easily we can deviate. And it has happened so many times in ISKCON, you know, that we can. I've once heard this joke, what's the deviation of this year, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yes. So, and these deviations always sneak in if we are not clear in Prabhupada's instructions, if we don't read Prabhupada's books enough, you know, then in a very subtle way, we may allow some, you know, some materialistic worldview to enter our spiritual life, and we don't even notice, and we get a little off the track there, and so on and so on. So, yeah, Prabhupada's books, if we read them regularly, you know, they actually protect us and ISKCON from going off the track, you know, because in Kali Yuga, naturally everything goes down the hill, everything degrades.
Yeah.
So we have to really work against this and swim against the mainstream, so to speak. And without being firmly established in Prabhupada's instructions, this is hardly even possible, you know. Yes.
I saw this like a post on Facebook, and it said like, what is the difference between Bhakta John, who is a Christian, and Bhakta John, who is a Hare Krishna? And then
Okay.
the answer was like in I don't know how to translate that into English, like that maybe the difference is only in the method of worship, like because both of them like serve God, and both of them like have emotions towards God, and they want to have like a service attitude. And I was thinking like, yes, that's all true, but the difference is actually in knowledge, and
Yes.
and this is what like what you were now saying, that
Yes.
we know we get this Sambandha Gyan, which is present. I mean, I'm not now minimizing other religions. I'm just saying like the amount of knowledge that Srila Prabhupada's books provide is totally
Yes.
different. And
Yes. Yes, definitely. I mean, we can say Krishna consciousness begins where other religions end.
yeah,
You know? Yes. I mean, no other religion offers insights into the highest levels of love to God, you know, that you can be a lover of God, a parent of God, a friend of God. I mean, that kind of understanding is not available anywhere, you know. So, yeah, I mean, Sambandha Gyan, you only get through Prabhupada's books. There's no other source, as far as I know, really, you know. And the special thing is that Prabhupada really, you know, made the essence of the Vedic literatures available to the whole world in a simple and practical language. I mean, this is very unique, you know, and Bhagavatam, everything is there, really everything, you know.
you can say that maybe to persons who don't like to read, that they're actually missing a lot, because there's
Yes,
so much magic and knowledge in this book.
yes, yes. And especially Prabhupada's English. I mean, I also always recommend people to, as far as possible, read Prabhupada's books in English, because Prabhupada's English is often so unique, how he chooses the words and connects them. And it's very sometimes playful and humorous and just so to the point. I mean, one even misses out if one reads Prabhupada's books in another language, because through translation you always lose something, and Prabhupada's English is just very special, you know. Yes.
That's very nice. And also because it's what you said. You said that you heard this joke. What is the deviation this year? It's just like how that's why I also feel like people should learn English, at least just because that they can read Srila Prabhupada's books.
Yes,
So
yes,
it gets
exactly.
lost in the translation sometimes.
Yes, yes.
And we can then have these deviations, but they can be very small, but can be.
Yes, often it creeps in a subtle way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I also wanted to ask, like, how did you, like, through your life and through your experience, and it's a really big experience, a big amount of years that you spend in devotional service. How did Prabhupada's books help you, like, in your spiritual life? How do you see connection? Okay, at the beginning, you said how you found your answers, but then how were you nourished throughout the life through Prabhupada's books?
Yes. Actually, when I think back, initially Prabhupada's, Bhagavad Gita was an eye-opener.
Mm.
But then actually for the first quite a number of years, I was mainly reading all these wonderful books about Prabhupada's pastimes. So I remember the first few years, I didn't even touch the Bhagavatam.
Mm.
And I even remember sitting in the Bhagavatam lectures without having a clue what's going on. And yes. So, but I was really devouring all these books about Prabhupada's life. I read so many of Satsvarup Maharaj's, books about Prabhupada. He wrote so many, not only the Leela Grita. And then I saw his diaries and, Prabhupada in Australia and Prabhupada in Germany and Prabhupada here and there. I mean, I read a lot of them.
Mm.
And that really brought me closer to Prabhupada as this personality. And, because I'm also a little elderly here, even in Melbourne, so many people think I'm a Prabhupada disciple and so on. And often people ask, so can you tell us something about when you met Prabhupada? Then I'm something that actually I didn't meet him. But then I often share that because I read so many books about Prabhupada's travels, and some of them are so amazing that you really feel you were right there with Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Like I really like Korma Prabhu's book about Prabhupada in Australia, The Transcendental Adventure, because also I know all the places here and I know many devotees mentioned there. But that book is so nice and so instructive. And it is written in such a tasteful way, like Korma Prabhu's cooking is so tasty. So his writing is actually also very, very nice.
Mm.
And and often I often even tell people, well, I read all these books and I actually feel I met Prabhupada. I traveled all around the world with him, Yes.
Yes.
Yes. But then only later, I started really developing a taste for reading Prabhupada's books. And I mean, I have to admit, I'm still not reading as much as I would like to, because I'm just always so busy and I don't have an assistant. Other traveling preachers, they have an assistant, but I have to do everything myself, Yes. Then writing books and traveling and, it's a very busy life. So I'm longing for the day actually when I'm getting too old to move around so much so that I can finally read a bit more. But my reading definitely got deepened with the moment when I started to give class.
Mm. Yes.
Yes. Because once you speak, you're always looking for some nice things to mention in a lecture.
Mm.
Yes. And definitely by speaking, you get so much benefit. You get more benefit than the audience, and especially I like to prepare. I don't like to just be thrown on the Vyasa sun, but in that meditation is so much joy, and to meditate what is relevant for this audience, and you read the verse and I'm thinking about it during the day, and then different ideas come to my mind, what I could mention, so this whole preparation, I really enjoy it actually, just that meditation. And yeah, I mean, just to give a little tip, when I started giving class, this was, when was that? Well, it was basically when I started traveling preaching, 99, 2000. Before then, I had never given a Bhagavatam class, but I was giving Mataji's programs very regularly. In Riga, we had a big community there and a big Brahmacharini ashram, 30 girls in the ashram. So I had every week a big Mataji's program, and I was giving Sankirtan classes and lectures about deity worship, some meetings. But I had never sat on the Vyasa-san, but then when my husband left Krishna consciousness, I thought, all right, let me start giving lectures now. Because also he was the temple president and I didn't want to compete with him. I wanted to leave it up to him to be on the Vyasa-san and so on, So, but then also because I'm actually not such a learned person, what I started doing, I have this little verse book. It's just actually like an address book, with ABC there, And whenever I read something really amazing, either a verse or some phrases of Prabhupada's purport, I copy them in my book.
Mm.
So I've done this over 20 years.
Wow.
And I put it under certain key points, like under A for, association and austerities. And what else do we have here? All kinds of ambitions and all kinds of things. So, and then B, bhakti and whatever not. So sometimes, of course, I have a bit of a problem. I can't remember under which subject I put things in my book. So then I have to go to my whole book and look for it. And I was even thinking once when I visited LA, I was even thinking of printing this.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yes, and actually one Mataji got fired up and she typed most of it already into a computer. And I showed it to the BBT in LA and yeah, they were interested. But then I started publishing my other books, so I haven't done it, But yeah, this has really deepened my reading to really save certain things, so I can find it later. And because I'm not so learned, I don't actually know many verses or anything. But this book is really also helpful for preparing for classes, So if there are certain topics in the verse or purport, I often look, what have I got? What nectar have I got here in my verse book? And then I can pull out all kinds of parts of Prabhupada's purports, which other people may not have, in their memory there, but by the help of this book, I have it in the class and I put some little colored papers there in, to find the references. And this is really helpful. This book is the dearest thing for me. If I lose this, I will be completely lost, But for over 20 years, I've been carrying this book everywhere I go with me. And, and I've added so many things, not only from Prabhupada's books, also Bhaktisiddhanta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or, whatever. But this I can highly recommend. That really deepens one's reading, if you can, and especially if you have an opportunity to share this with others and maybe give a class or something, then that really, then you look more for nice points and you want to save them somewhere and find them later and share them and so on, you know.
Yeah.
And actually, just in the beginning, I shared that I met some 4 ladies here, Prabhupada disciples. Actually, one of those ladies, Ambika Mataji, she was telling me that she has one friend with whom she meets every day over internet, and they prepare one verse, they read one verse at home, and they write down a few thoughts about it or take some notes, and then over internet they share what comes to their mind on this verse and so on, you know. So, and yeah, so even if people are not a class giver or they're too shy to, you know, speak in front of an audience, but just something like that to share with one friend over internet that can deepen one's reading, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. It's a very good idea, you know?
Yeah. It reminds me of the verse from the Bhagavad Gita. I don't, of course, my memory for the verses is very bad, but to paraphrase, it's that the devotees like to converse about Krishna, and they like to enlighten one another about
Yes,
that
yes,
a part of devotional service. And
yes,
it's really beautiful. So in a sense, your tip is what Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita,
yes,
that's what
yes,
we do. So
yes,
it's
yes.
wonderful that we can do with anyone. We don't have to give official class or anything.
Yes. Also, what I often recommend to devotees is to have like a Bhagavatam study group,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and in that group, everybody should read at home a certain section of the Bhagavatam, a certain amount of verses, and think about it, what is striking to them, what they don't understand, how they can apply it in their life or whatever. So then in the program, one person gives a little summary of these verses, and then there is discussion. And this is also very helpful to really deepen one's reading, because you know, if you want to somehow take part in this program, you have to read these verses. Otherwise, you sit there like a Dumbo and you don't know what they're talking about. Because in the program, there should be no reading. This should be done during the week as preparation. And in the program itself, one person gives a short summary, and then there's discussion. And this is very helpful, because then you also know, so next Saturday, this program is coming. So if I want to somehow take part, I have to read and I have to look for some interesting points to talk about and share something, or at least ask a question, or how to apply this and how does Prabhupada mean that, or something. But yeah, and then people will read, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
I remember this one Prabhu, Chaitanya Avatar Prabhu. He's one Prabhu from, I think he's a temple president in ISKCON Bangalore in India. But I don't know.
ISKCON where?
Bangalore in India. And Bangalore, sorry. In
Yes.
India, and he was very known. He's very known for these bhakti rickshaw programs, and he would always explain to us how he would come somewhere with the new people, and then he would say just a little, but then he will induce them to speak, because then they would remember actually he spoke, because of the repeat and so on, and then we become more inspired to go deeper. So thank you so much for these tips. They're very nice and very important. And also, what I was thinking while you were speaking is like our process of Krishna consciousness, because the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, they're based on questions and answers, right? But in a way, these books, they help us ask questions and
Yes.
they stimulate the intelligence. And that's how
Yeah.
sometimes, we had a question and answer session in Zurich. So, and also we want to inspire people to come and ask questions, but also you need to dive into the books also, that you can ask questions and also help what you said, that it's not only the books but the relationship with
Yes. Yes.
people. So maybe
Yeah.
can you say something? What is your understanding? Do you see it also, or maybe differently?
What exactly do you mean now?
Like this, that books help us asking questions, and by asking questions,
Oh,
we actually establish the relationship. For instance, with the spiritual master, with the senior devotees. With
yes, 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 definitely. I mean, we can say attentive hearing should lead to questions.
Oh,
Often people think, no question, everything is clear. But no, if we hear with that mood of wanting to apply it
Mm.
in our life, then surely there will be some questions about the application, you know? So we can say a sign of deeper hearing is actually that there will be some questions.
Mm.
Yeah. Yes. And definitely, yes. I mean, all the scriptures is dialogue, it's question and answer. So this inquiry, this being inquisitive
Mm.
is just so important. That there's also purports where Prabhupada says how important this quality of inquisitiveness is,
Mm.
that we actually have this urge to find out, how to overcome certain obstacles in life and so on. But if there's some indifference, oh yeah, well, we'll just sit out of our time there in the Bhagavatam class, and because we have to go to the class or something. So then this hearing is not attentive on the level of the heart. So attentiveness on the level of the heart, there has to be this burning desire of trying to find out how to reach Krishna, that loyam, that eagerness, that greed for Krishna has to be there. But I mean, one thing I like to share also, because this question is discussed also in the DVCs, how we can inspire people to read Prabhupada's books. And I dare say, because now I'm writing this book on the Grihastha ashram, family life as an ashram, I dare say it is connected with this fact that most people's family life is actually not really an ashram. It is something else. Because if family life is an ashram, that means holy name and Bhagavatam have to be the center. They have to be really, really important, because that's what temple life is all about. Temple life is molded in such a way that Bhagavatam and the holy name are the center, So, and if we want to make our family life also into an ashram, we also have to mold our life in such a way that the holy name and the Bhagavatam are the center.
Yeah.
And often, we can say we haven't given our devotees enough training and education, what it means that family life is an ashram.
Mhm.
People often just slide into some relationship without any real preparation, especially if they haven't lived in the temple, they haven't had a time as a brahmachari or brahmacharini, their taste may not be there. So then family life is so busy with so many other things. And Bhagavatam is in many householders' life almost not present, I have the feeling, because the mornings there's no time to go to the temple, and then they go once a week on Sundays to the Sunday program, but Sunday feast is actually an outreach program. It's for newcomers. So the Sunday feast lectures are not that nourishing for practicing devotees. So yeah, I have the suspicion that for many family people, Bhagavatam is hardly present in their life.
Mm.
And it actually means their family life is not an ashram.
Mm.
That's what it means, you know. So I think we have to train people more to prepare them and give them some clear understanding how family life can be arranged so it is an ashram, you know. And we have to emphasize this, that Bhagavatam and Holy Name, if we want to make our family life an ashram, it has to be a really important thing in life, in daily life, has to be there. So, yeah, and then hopefully people will realize more what is the difference between family life as an ashram and mundane family life, you know, because we don't know anything else except mundane family life. And if there's not some proper education, then yeah, Bhagavatam is not present in the chanting that just happens on the clicker on the way to work or shopping, which you can also forget, you know, it's not chanting. So yeah, these things are going on massively in ISKCON, and that's why there's a lack of reading. It is a question of education, that people don't do Grihastha seminar, you know, before they end a married life or something. And they don't have that guidance. They often don't have a mentor who helps them to arrange their family life in such a way that it is an ashram, you know. And that's why we have this phenomena that, people don't read enough, you know.
Yeah. And maybe can you share with us some practical advice, like how people can make their grihastha life more shramik? I mean, it's the proper word, but that they embrace the holy name and Bhagavatam more.
Yes. Well, I'm just writing a book on that topic. I mean, actually, the secrets of success are pretty simple.
Mm.
You know, like one secret is as far as possible to live in walking distance to the temple. Actually, here in Melbourne, because this temple has been established for many years, Prabhupada has been in this temple, you know, he installed the deities. So this temple has been here for 50 years or something. Yeah, I mean, tomorrow actually we are celebrating 50 years of installation of small Radha Vallabha. Yeah, so this temple has been here for 50 years. So, and it's ISKCON property, of course. So many grihastas live in walking distance.
Mm.
And Mangalati, so many grihastas come. You know, it's quite amazing. Yes. So such a simple little thing, living close to the temple, is one of the main secrets of success. If you live 45 minutes away from the temple, oh, well, then you have to think, you know, do I have the time to come and this and that? And then probably you don't, and you only come once a week. But walking distance, people often come 2-3 times a day to the temple.
Yeah.
You know? Yes. And then another real simple thing, yet so difficult to put into place. And I'm also writing about this in this book. Mangalati.
Yeah.
Prabhupada was emphasizing Mangalati so strongly, you know, but which grihastha, especially in the Western world, is having a Mangalati at home? You know, at 4:30 or not much later than 5. You know, I know some people, some grihastas, because, you know, traveling, I often stay with people. So some people are on this habit at 7 o'clock, they sing all the songs in one go. But this is not so Mangal anymore, you know. Mangal means auspicious. And I found some heavy statements where Prabhupada emphasizes the Brahma Muhurta hour. And he says that's the test. If you're serious, if you get up early,
Mm.
So in such a little thing, Mangalati puts everything into place, because, you know, if you want to get up for Mangalati, you have to take rest early. You can't eat a whole plate of prasadam at 10 o'clock or something, because you know there will be no Mangalati the next day, you know. And I've experienced this in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, the more seriously practicing householders, they are Mangalati fanatics.
Okay. That's very nice.
I have been in people's houses. You know, sometimes they have these big pandal programs which go till midnight, and then you have to visit somebody's house and take some fruits, and you only take rest at 1 o'clock in the morning, and you come home and you think, God, let's hope there will not be a Mangalati, you know. But surely enough, the granny who didn't go to the program, she blows the conch through the whole house, you know, and sings while she's doing the Mangalati, you know. I mean, people cannot imagine their life without a Mangalati. It's a must. And they all have Tulsi Devi, and they do the full program. They do Tulsi Aarti, circumambulate, and it's the whole thing, you know. Yes, and then of course they chant, and then they read some verses. So, and then my husband goes to work, you know. Yeah, so, but, you know, in the Western world, not many devotees have a Mangalati, you know. Yeah. But just such a little thing puts a whole different edge to your family life, you know, because then you get up early and hopefully you don't go back to sleep afterwards. But what will you do? You chant, you read, you know, early morning hours, you know.
Yeah, they're the best, definitely.
Yeah, and I also dare say there is a connection between chanting and reading, because if we chant attentively, then we will get taste for reading. We will not think that Bhagavatam is boring or something, you know. So the more we endeavor to chant attentively, the more we will get inspired to serve in so many capacities, and also in reading and hearing. And then the more we hear and read, that will deepen our chanting. So the reading and the chanting, they go hand in hand and enhance each other, you know. But if we don't have a proper japa time and we get up at 6:30 or 7, and then the day starts already, and we chant somehow one round here and a half around there, I mean, how can we expect to get some taste for reading the Bhagavatam or something, you know?
That's true. Thank you for sharing all that. And I just wanted to ask you also, I mean, I want to connect, like, because you are an author of 4 books, and in a way, without Prabhupada's books, you wouldn't, I mean, the topics are from the Prabhupada's books, and how does that help you?
Oh, completely. I mean, you know, now I'm here in Melbourne, and from 10 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm working on my writing. And all the time I'm looking up in the folio in the Veda base for quotes, you know, it's completely based on Prabhupada's books. I mean, sometimes when I give senior devotees the manuscript to go through the contents, sometimes I get this feedback, too many quotes. Yes. And I say, well, there can't be too many quotes of Prabhupada. But of course, if I have too many quotes which basically say the same thing, then all right, sometimes I take one out, you know, and one is maybe enough and no need to be too repetitive or something. But yeah, I mean, without Prabhupada's quotes, what's the use, you know? Whatever I'm saying, I'm always looking for quotes from Prabhupada, and they're mainly from the Bhagavatam, but sometimes also from his letters or his morning walks or his lectures or something. And yeah, that keeps me pretty absorbed, and I come across so much nectar, you know. because thanks to the database, if you put a few terms in the search function, you come across so many things there.
Yeah.
Yes, it's really like a whole treasure house of jewels there, and yeah, I find things which I never read before, or which I hadn't heard before, or couldn't remember, or whatever, so yeah, there's a lot of nectar things there, and it very closely connects me with Prabhupada's books, definitely, yes. I mean, my books are basically targeting the practical application of what Prabhupada says, because I feel, we are not quite there yet in actually living our philosophy. We learn them, we do Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, and we like to repeat it and learn it by heart and quote it. But then, are we living it? We are not there yet. And that requires, again, education. I see that as the second step of education. First step is to get to know the Sambandha Gyan, but then second step is, how do we live it? Or are we living it? So, and that's why, my books are completely based on what Prabhupada says, because I'm always trying to illustrate, here, Prabhupada says it. So, and this is how we should be living it. And this is what I experienced in Bangladesh, how people there live actually our philosophy and our culture. So like that, I try to give deeper insights what Prabhupada actually says and how we are meant to live it, what it actually means, how it should look in the application. So therefore, it's completely based on Prabhupada, because that's my concern, that we actually live what Prabhupada says, and often we just read over these things and we park them because we're so deeply conditioned to live according to materialistic worldviews, that we are not actually really living what Prabhupada says, and that's really my concern, and that's my approach to writing these books, Yes.
Yeah, I know you always emphasize education, like that.
Yes, I mean, as an example, Vanaprastha Ashram, nobody talks about it, not established. But the Bhagavatam is full of quotes where Prabhupada talks about the Vanaprastha Ashram. Again and again, he hammers it. 50, at the age of 50, one should give up, the cozy home. And it's all in the Bhagavatam. But nobody talks about it. Nobody hardly even aspires for it. So these points, they kind of are dear to my heart, to kind of really make people aware of what Prabhupada is actually saying, and that he's not just saying it and it's not relevant for us today in the modern days. Often we hear these things, that's the Vedic times now, Kali Yuga, it's all different. Well, why would Prabhupada say all these things in the Bhagavatam? Why would he spend his time and energy to say these things if they're not relevant for us, if he doesn't expect us to actually live them sooner or later? But it is, I see it as a matter over several generations until we get there, because we're so deeply rooted in materialistic worldviews and concepts and so on. It's not so easy, not so easy. But yeah, there's quite a few topics which I really feel they're not really being taken into people's lives and so on.
I have two more questions. One question is regarding this younger generations who, you said like that when we chant, then we get a taste for reading. But somehow the perception is that they the younger generations, they say, well, we like to chant, we go to kirtan, so we don't preach so much, but we don't think that we need it so much because we have taste, for the holy names of this. I mean, I'm certain that they have a taste for the holy name, but it's important to read. So I just wanted to ask, like, what would be, how would you inspire them, to read?
Well, I mean, I do like to conduct holy name retreats myself. And in the holy name retreats, I always emphasize japa sets the foundation to kirtan. Because in japa, we are doing the individual internal work and we are building the connection with Krishna. And then in kirtan, we can spread it. And a good kirtan, a spiritually uplifting and powerful kirtan has to be based on good japa. Otherwise, the kirtan leader in kirtan, he will not hopelessly call out to Krishna and mindfully turn to him. And then it would just be nice music, Yes. So spiritually powerful kirtan has to be based on good japa. And good japa has to be based on Prabhupada's books. Because in Prabhupada's books, we get the Sambandha Gyan. Who am I? I am Krishna's servant. I'm tiny, insignificant. I'm, his eternal servant. I'm meant to use everything in this world for his pleasure. So that's Sambandha Gyan we get through Prabhupada's books. Also Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Harinam Chintamani says this, that the chanting has to be based on Sambandha Gyan being deeply established in the heart. And then it becomes very natural that we mindfully turn to Krishna and we call out. But if the Sambandha Gyan is not there, deeply felt in the heart, that yes, I'm an eternal servant, and I've done so much nonsense for all these years and I've neglected this relationship, then this regret will not be there and we will not really call out to Krishna. So good japa has to be based on Prabhupada's books. So that's how it all nicely connects, Yeah. The books are the basis to the japa and the japa is the basis to the powerful kirtan. So, I think also to the young generation, I'm very well aware of this, that in many parts of the world, it's just kirtan, no rules and regulations, no morning program, no sadhana, it's kirtan, it's the sankirtan, it's the yuga dharma. But no. Then it will just be nice music, but not much more than that. Just coming together and having a whole music session, And this gives also some pleasure, but it is a different pleasure than we receive from chanting the holy name, Yes. I mean, without good japa, holy name kirtan can easily also be a showing off session where we demonstrate our musical abilities and our beautiful voice and this and that. And that's why we get all frustrated if we couldn't lead, So if this is there, then obviously our pleasure is not coming from the holy name, but it's for its ego satisfaction, because if it would come from the holy name, then we wouldn't care whether we lead or anybody else lead. It doesn't matter, so we have to be careful, As I was saying, in Kali Yuga, everything naturally goes down the hill. So this can also happen with kirtan very easily if it is not based on solid practice and japa and Prabhupada's books. And I've seen this in Bangladesh and also West Bengal. There's so many professional kirtan groups, not in ISKCON, but outside of ISKCON. They're very expert singers. Oh my God, But their singing is something else because it's not based on sadhana. It's not based on the four principles. They're smoking their bidis in between the kirtans or what. you know, so it is simply nice music, nothing else in that, you know.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, so we have to, again, it's a question of education, that people are educated. What is kirtan?
Yeah.
You know, that it's not just nice music and great madanga playing and all this, but, you know, the kirtan leader has to connect with Krishna. That's what makes a kirtan a powerful kirtan, you know.
Yeah.
In humility, not wanting to show off and so on, you know.
And the final question would be, so like I would like if you can say some message for future generations, not just younger generations, but anyone who comes to Krishna consciousness. Like, what would be your advice or some inspiration on how to be more inspired to read Srila Prabhupada's books and how to make really his books the basis of a spiritual life?
Well, I mean, first of all, it is a question of association, you know. If we associate with people who have taste, then it is so much easier to, then that rubs off, you know, and we also get a taste. But then also, you know, we always say, Shravanam Kirtanam, this is the watering process. It's like the medicine. And even though in the beginning it may not taste so nice or something, you know, medicine may taste bitter, but still, you know, if we want to get anywhere, we just have to continue taking the medicine, no matter whether we like it or not, you know. So, and I guess that's the beauty of experiencing temple life, at least for some time, for younger people, you know, to just have some experience of temple life, living in the ashram, brahmachari ashram. Then we do, you know, imbibe this habit of getting up early, chanting our rounds, hearing the Bhagavatam. It is a question of habit also. We have to firmly establish these habits in our life. And then we feel, you know, if for some reason we don't have the opportunity to get up early and be with the devotees and have a morning program, or at least have a program at home, you know, we feel, oh, this was a lost day, you know, and that let me have again tomorrow some program, you know, so then we get that practical experience that the whole day starts on a different note when we actually can have some spiritual program early in the morning. So that we have to get that experience. And we have to establish that habit in our life, that somehow we arrange our life in such a way that this is a really important priority, you know. And then, it becomes so important and dear to us that, I mean, these days I almost avoid going out somewhere in the evenings, you know. I'm very careful to choose which program do I attend or something. Even when I was recently in Vrindavan, there was nice kirtans. Bhakti Bringa Govinda Maharaj was there, but his kirtans only started at 7:30. Sorry, this is too late for me, you know. Yeah. And then I make a choice, and usually the choice is, well, then I better miss it and take rest early, so I have my morning program and I can get up early, you know. And of course, sometimes I may decide the other way around, you know, and attend a program, or Guru Maharaj or something. So I go to his kirtans, even if it may be later or something. But I'm very choosy, you know, how I spend my evening hours and what time I take rest, because this morning program has become over the years so dear to me, you know. And in the beginning it may not be like that, but we have to somehow also clearly understand it's the medicine. And if we want to take Krishna consciousness seriously and actually experience some joy in Krishna consciousness, then we just have to take the medicine. We have to arrange our life in such a way that we can take it. And if we take it in the association of like-minded devotees, it also gives strength and support, you know. Definitely, the association is so important, so important. I mean, last year or 2 years ago, I was once in Germany during a lockdown, and every temple there was Corona, and I was just visiting my mother, so I got stuck at her place for 4 weeks. And she has a big house. I had downstairs my own flat and own kitchen, and she's upstairs. So it was fine. But I started realizing, my God, this is how many devotees in the world live, far away from the nearest temple, especially in Germany and countries like that, far away from the nearest temple. They just get up, they do their thing in the morning, you know, chant their rounds, listen to a lecture over the internet, and that's it. And I thought, oh my God, how miserable, how miserable. I've never lived my life like that. It was the first time in my 37 years of Krishna consciousness that I had this experience, being for 4 weeks away from devotees. I had never had that experience before. Apart from traveling on collection, I was away, but then I was so focused and getting up early and out there all day. So it was a different mood. You know, but just living like that in your cozy house and just getting up and chanting your rounds and listening to a lecture, and that's the program. Very, very dry, and you know.
Yeah, that's why.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why people sometimes. Yeah. I mean, this I say from my own experience, especially if I'm alone. Just it's so dry because it's only you that you're just like, well, I don't feel so inspired, you know.
Yes, and I mean, even if you do it with your husband together, still, you know, for how many years that will that be inspiring, you know? So, I mean, you need some associations. So, being an active part of a nice community,
yes,
is really, really important, you know, and by the strength of that association. And again, I experienced this in Bangladesh also, because Bangladesh is a Muslim country. Hindus are a big minority. So no serious Hindu, even if he's not a devotee, no serious Hindu would live surrounded by Muslims. They all live in certain areas where the Hindus live. In the villages, in the cities, there's always certain areas where the Hindus live. And there's a few Hindu temples in that area. And people have that habit of going in the morning and in the evening to the Hindu temple. Even if it is just, you know, formality, they just put their forehead on the gate, or they put a few coins in the box. There's no Shravanam Kirtanam happening in these Hindu temples. But they still have this culture of starting the day with a visit at the mandir, at the temple, and finishing the day with a visit at the temple. That culture is still there. And I realized this is where Prabhupada got the morning and evening program from, you know. He extracted that aspect of the Hindu culture and established the morning and evening program. So we have to do it like these Hindus in Bangladesh, that we try and avoid living surrounded by non-devotees. But we want to live where devotees are, and where there's a temple, and where we can go ideally every day to the temple, you know? Mm. Yes, simple thing, you know? So it has to become so important to us that we do anything to have this association of devotees, where there's some enlivening programs going on, you know, and then it will not be dry and boring to hear, and associate with the devotees and attend different home programs and all these things, So, I mean, here, the Melbourne community, they're so active in house programs. They have a list of about 30 Bhakti Vriksha groups.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah.
We don't
Yes.
have even one.
Yes. I mean, it's mainly Indian body devotees here, and they just have it in the blood, and they have these home programs, and and it's going on in all different parts of the city regularly, every week,
That's why.
Yes. Yeah, I know this also from Chowpatty, they're also the grihastas, they all attend 2 to 3 times a week, some function, some program, some mentorship program or whatever, and the men, they go with a dhoti in their plastic bag to the work, and then straight from work, they go to the house where the program is, and they get changed behind the door there somewhere, hide behind the door, quickly put the dhoti on, and then they attend the program and have their dinner there, and then they go home and take rest, Yeah, so we have to nourish ourselves, and it should not be some dry must or something, but it can be packaged in recreational. I mean, that's Vaishnava's recreational activities and social life, by going to somebody's home and having some guitar, some kirtan, some prasad, and some association and going home. So, that's Vaishnava social life,
Thank you. Thank you for the whole conversation. There were many nectars that you have. So,
Okay.
thank you. I wish you all the best. And
Okay.
please accept again my humble obeisances. And
Please
have a nice time in Australia.
Yeah, so I also want to thank you for arranging this conversation and giving me an opportunity to share some thoughts. And so it was a great pleasure for me to be a part of it. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.